In this video, we're going to discuss the 2026 rules on working while collecting Social Security. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
There are a lot of people who work while collecting Social Security. In fact, there are a lot more people than most people think. While the SSA doesn't publish this number, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 27% of adults between the ages of 65 and 74 are working, and 8% from 75 onward are also working. Those numbers are expected to increase to 30% and 10% respectively by 2033. Given this information, it's pretty easy to make a jump, and that jump is that about 1 out of 5 adults between the ages of 65 and 74 are working and collecting Social Security. But the SSA doesn't make it easy. In fact, they put a lot of restrictions on people who want to work and collect Social Security at the same time, and I'm mixed on this particular point. On the one hand, if someone is working and collecting Social Security, that depletes the pool of Social Security benefits for others that might need it more. On the other hand, in a country where it's harder and harder to maintain a job past, say, age 59, and certainly past age 65, you want to say more power to you, because working later in retirement, or retirement years anyway, means that you're reducing the possibility of something like poverty. That same worker is contributing to Social Security through FICA and a whole host of other benefits. And the fact is, when people work past age 62 or 63 or 65 plus, a lot of the expenses they had before have gone away. And this really allows them the opportunity to save and build a nest egg for the future, reduces poverty, and a whole host of other benefits. Either way, it's not up to me. I think there's merit to it, but at the same time, I don't make the rules. I only tell you what they are, and that is why I'm here. For most people, working while collecting Social Security means that they're working part-time because of the thresholds that the SSA has in place. And a lot of these retirees will do what they did before, but they'll do it part-time. For example, if you were a tax accountant, your busy season was between January 1st and April 15th, for the most part. As someone who worked in public accounting for many years, I can tell you that tax accountants work sometimes 80 hours a week between January 1st and April 15th. During that time, they're typically meeting with clients, interviewing them to make sure that they have all of the information, and then finally preparing their tax return for distribution to the IRS before April 15th. The rest of the year, they're doing things like corporate taxes, because not all companies have a December 31st year end. And so oftentimes for the rest of the year, they're working on company tax returns. The seasonality is why firms like H&R Block were created. They'll train people to do tax returns during that period of time, even if they're not CPAs. Another one is a summer camp director. I know a lot of summer camp directors that were once full-time employees, and they only work from about June 15th through the end of August. And last but not least, at least for this video, is the open enrollment specialist who works between, say, maybe mid-October through the end of November, and their job is to make sure that they shepherd people through the insurance process, the health insurance process. Speaking of insurance, between now and December 7th, we are in the Medicare annual enrollment period. This means that if you're on Medicare and you want to switch plans, now is the time to consider it. Even if you're happy with your current plan, it's critical that you assess your options for 2026. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal about 3 weeks ago that said 1.2 million Medicare Advantage plan participants were losing coverage for 2026. And simply by not looking at options, every year, millions of people end up on the wrong plan. They're either paying too much or they don't have the coverage that they're looking for. On this channel, we only have 3 affiliate relationships, and one of those is Chapter. If you have questions about Medicare, I highly recommend that you talk to our trusted partner, Chapter. Chapter is the only Medicare advisor that looks at every plan nationwide to see if you are on the right plan. If the answer is yes, they'll tell you. If the answer is no, they'll help you get on the right plan. Their support is free. It only takes about 20 minutes of your time, and they save their clients an average of $1,100 per year. So if this is of interest to you, give them a call at 440-703-1224 to see if they can help you. It's also worth pointing out that many people have their best technical skills right before retirement. So employers, many employers anyway, will seek out these individuals for part-time work. It works out for the employer because they don't have to pay for things like health insurance and other benefits. And it works out for the retiree because they don't have to quit working, but they do have earnings limits. And that's what we're going to talk about. Now, what's an earnings limit? It's the maximum you can earn without having to give part of your Social Security payment back to the Social Security Administration. Now, if 2026 isn't the year, the calendar year, that you reach full retirement age, you can earn up to $24,480 in 2026 without having to give any of those funds back to the SSA. For every $2 you go over this limit, you have to give $1 back to the SSA in a non-full retirement age year. So in the example that I just gave you, if you're a tax accountant and you work from January 1st to April 15th and you earn under $24,480 in that year, well, then you don't have to give anything back to the SSA as long as you don't continue to work beyond $24,480. If 2026 is the year that you reach full retirement age, but you haven't reached full retirement age yet, you can earn up to $65,160. For every $3 that you go over that limit, you have to give $1 back to the SSA. Now, here's the problem. Most people don't retire on the 1st of January. They retire sometime during the year, oftentimes halfway through, 2/3 of the way through. Let's say that your compensation was $73,440 per year, and you retired 2/3 of the way through the year. At that point, you would have earned $48,960, which is exactly double the maximum you can earn before starting to return part of your Social Security payment back to the SSA. Because you just started collecting Social Security, but you're already 100% over the earnings limit, does that mean that you have to give most or all of your Social Security payment back to the SSA? Fortunately, no. The SSA has a first-year rule, and it only applies the first year. Because a lot of people start off already earning more than the limit, the SSA turns the annual test into a monthly test for the first year only, the first calendar year only. So instead of having an annual threshold of $24,480, they have a monthly threshold of $2,040, and that begins the first month they start receiving Social Security. So you could have earned $500,000 up until that point. The measure only starts when you start receiving Social Security. Now you keep saying, Jeff, you keep talking about a non-full retirement age year. Full retirement age in 2026 is age 67. What if I turn age 67 in 2026? What does that mean? Well, the numbers change. If this is the year that you reach full retirement age, you can earn up to $65,160. And then you have to give back $1 for every $3 over that limit. So it's a much higher threshold. And the same rules apply, by the way. If this is the first year that you're drawing Social Security, that annual limit turns into a monthly limit that only starts after you start collecting Social Security. In this case, in 2026, if this is the year that you reach full retirement age, then you can earn up to $5,430 per month, and every $3 over that limit, you have to give $1 back to the SSA. Up until this point, we talked about part-time work because most people who work and collect Social Security really plan on this. And so they know the numbers, and the only way for them to not exceed the numbers is to work part-time. But sometimes people work full-time and they just blow through those limits. Sometimes they have a financial setback. They lost a lot of money for some reason. Maybe the markets moved against them. Maybe an investment that they put a lot of money into went bad, and they need to work not part-time, but full-time. Maybe their personal goals have changed. I don't know. But this creates a situation. In this situation, you'll probably go over those limits because you're working full-time. You weren't planning on working full-time, but now you're working full-time. So what do? Well, you don't wait for the SSA to send you a bill for the $1 for every $2 that you go over, or $1 for every $3 you go over in your full retirement age year. You let them know in advance. Otherwise, you could be receiving a bill for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 because the SSA doesn't necessarily catch it the minute you start. Sometimes it takes a year or two or even 3. And let me tell you, I've heard horror stories of people getting a bill from the SSA for 3 years worth of Social Security payments. And that number was one that they didn't count on. Now, that happens from time to time. People are in a situation where they need to go back to work, and they do go back to work, and the SSA bills them later. The other scenario I've heard of is that people don't realize that there is an earnings limit. And the minute they qualify to take Social Security, they start taking Social Security and they feel like they've won the lottery. They'll go out and they'll buy a new car. They'll go on a vacation. They'll give gifts to a lot of different people. You get the point. But in every single scenario, the outcome is the same, which is the SSA asks for a portion of their Social Security payment, maybe even all of their Social Security payment, returned back to the Social Security Administration. Now, if you know that this is going to happen to you, or if it has already started and you know that you're going to be over or you are over, I highly recommend that you talk to the SSA and let them know that you went back to work and to withhold your Social Security payment, either part of it or all of it, depending on your specific situation. Now, usually around this point in the story, someone identifies one very critical fact, and that is when you take Social Security, you can take it early or you can take it late. If you take it late, then your payment is higher, but you get less of them. If you take it earlier, well, then you get more payments, but they're smaller. The person who started taking Social Security and then has to stop their Social Security payment is in the worst of both worlds because their Social Security payment isn't continuing to grow and they're not receiving it. Fortunately, that's not the case. When you tell the SSA to withhold part or all of your Social Security payment, that payment goes back into your base, and then once you reach full retirement age, you receive a higher Social Security payment. So, in fact, it's a backdoor way of withholding your Social Security payment. I wouldn't recommend using this approach to increase the size of your Social Security payment, but if you do, in fact, have Social Security payments held back or partially held back, the SSA will recalculate. Finally, once you reach full retirement age, and in 2026 and beyond, that's age 67, you can earn as much as you want, and the SSA doesn't withhold anything from your Social Security payment. Gang, I've just recently released my Social Security Quick Guide for 2026. It's one page, it's easy to use, and it's totally free to you. If you'd like a free copy, go to hollyschmidt.com/quick guide, and it will be emailed to you instantly. You'll also receive tips, tricks, and other information by email once or twice a week. Also, as a reminder, if you have questions about Medicare, don't forget to give our partner a chapter call, 440-703-1224, to see if they can help. And if you like this video, check out that video, 5 Big Changes to Social Security in 2026. This is Jeff Schmidt, and I will see you in that video right there.